Hello everyone, good afternoon. My name is Vijay Chaudhary and I am graduate consultant with the Top Tech Consultants. Thank you for taking the time to join this presentation on corporate governance. Today I will be exploring modern governance framework from a legal perspective, focusing on how Australian companies can adopt the best practices to mitigate risk and ensure ethical and sustainable growth. So this presentation is tailored for integrity laws and their clients, especially in light of recent governance or failures in major corporations such as Crown Resorts and Rio Tinto. So let's begin by the framing the purpose and context that makes this topic especially relevant today. So, so in the second slide, we can see the purpose and context. So recent events have shown that poor corporate governance can have devastating effects not only for the company but for the stakeholders, shareholders, and the wider public. So Crown Resorts and Rio Tinto are prominent example of what happens when governance frameworks fail. This presentation is aimed to provide the legal insights into the what strong corporate governance look like in the practice. So we will look at the key governance laws, principles, and the ethical standards that reduce organizational risk and the help ensure accountability. So our goal is to help the integrity laws and their clients understand how to create a resilient governance systems grounded in the both compliance and ethical leadership. So heading towards the third slide. So what is the corporate governance? So corporate governance involves in the systems and the processes that guide companies' directions, control, and accountability. So it's grounded in the legal instruments like the Corporation Act 2001 and the ASX corporate governance principles. So governance defines the relationships among the stakeholders, especially in the board, management, shareholders, and the regulators. Critical distinctions exist between the governance and the management. The board provides oversights and set the company's strategic directions while management handles day-to-day operations. Strong governance ensures ethical behavior, reduce risk, and build the trust with the stakeholders. So it acts like a company's moral and the operational compass, guiding its decision and ensuring that long-term values is prioritized. In the fourth slide, we can see the top 7 governance principles and the theories it's ranked by. So there are many factors contributing to good governance, but these 7 stand out as most impactful. Like first are the director's duties under the Corporations Act. These are legally enforceable and critical for the board accountability. Next, ASX corporate governance principle provide the voluntary yet widely respected standards. Corporate social responsibility, it's CSR, align compliance and with the social values. Stakeholder theory emphasize ethical obligations beyond the shareholders. Company constitutions and the replaceable rules are shape internal decision making. Board independence and the diversity strengthen oversight. Finally, transparency and the disclosure obligations foster investors' confidence and the trust. Together, these frameworks form a robust governance and environment that supports the compliance, ethics, and performance. Now, let's take a closer look at the 3 most important factors, starting with the director duties under the Corporation Act. So, in the next slide, we can see director duties SS 180 to 183. Director duties are legal obligations outlined in the section 180 to 183 of the Corporation Act. And director must act with the care and the diligence in the good faith and must not misuse their positions or company information. These duties are critical because they ensure the board is acting in the best interest of the company and its stakeholders. So failure to comply can result in the civil and the criminal penalties. A classic example of the ASIC versus Elder. where the director misuse the funds for the personal benefit. This case highlights how breaches and can destroy trust, attract regulatory scrutiny, and lead to the reputational and the financial consequences. In the sixth slide, we can see ASX corporate governance principles. The ASX corporate governance principles offer a voluntary principle-based framework for the listed companies. They cover eight areas, including the board structures and corporate culture, ethical behavior, and risk management. So company must either comply or they explain why they don't. This is known as the if not, why not approach. Through not the mandatory, others enhance market credibility and the investor trust. In the case of the Crown Resorts, the failure to uphold key principles like board independence and the risk mitigation oversights led to a royal commission and regulatory consequences. The ASX framework encourages the self-reflections, transparency, and the continuous improvement, making it a cornerstone of the best practice governance in Australia. Okay, in the second slide. Okay, so it's in we can see the corporate social responsibility (CSR). So CSR refers to the ethical and social responsibilities that companies have beyond legal compliance. It includes the environmental stewardship, social inclusion, fair labor practices, and the community engagement. So companies that implement CSR build stronger relationship with the stakeholders and enjoy higher level of trust. The Rio Tinto incident is a powerful example, and despite the complying with the law, the destructions of the Jukan George Aboriginal site violated ethical and the cultural standards. This sparks global conductions and executive resignation. CR is not just a moral imperative, it also protects reputation, supports brand equality, and can provide a competitive advantage in the today's value driven market. In the slide number 8, you can see the comparison of the top three factors. Let's compare the top three factors, governance factors across the legal authorities and ethical strength, commercial importance, and the business impact. So direct duties are legal enforceable and vital for the risk mitigation. They anchor corporate behavior in the law. The ASX principles were not legally binding, but they offer significant ethical and the commercial value. So encouraging transparency and the better oversight. CSR, through the not legally required, has high ethical transparency and protect long-term brand value. All three contribute differently but powerfully. Law ensures accountability. Principles guide conduct and CSR reflect corporate citizenship. Together, they form a layered approach to building a sustainable and resilient corporate governance. So, moving forward to the ninth slide. There are some recommendations for the best practice governance. Okay, so we can see that to promote the best practice governance, companies should begin with the robust training on directors' legal and ethical duties. Next, full implementation of ASX corporate governance principle is essential, including the disclosure of compliance of reasonable or for non-compliance. So CSR should be integrated into the core business strategies, not as a marketing tool, but as a genuine value system. Governance audits and the stronger whistleblower protections ensure ongoing accountability. These steps create a culture for the integrity, reduce legal exposure, and foster the long-term stakeholder trust. Importantly, governance must involve with the changing expectations. What worked 5 years ago may no longer be sufficient today. Yeah, it's true. So in the last slide, we can see the conclusion and the questions. So in conclusion, you can see the good governance is a combination of legal compliance, ethical leadership, and strategic foresight. So the failure of the Crown and the Rio Tinto demonstrate the lacking any of these elements can lead to the serious consequences. Director duties, ASX principles, and the CSR each play a unique and complementary role in building a responsible corporate framework. So for the integrity lawyers and the clients, so understanding these elements is essential in reducing the risk and ensuring justice in governance related legal action. So thank you so much for your attention. So I'm very happy to answer your questions and yeah, all things good. So you can see there are some references for my presentation. Thank you so much for listening me.